What really stood out in her speech, at least in terms of being newsworthy, takeaways?
Well, the news what has been taken away is she got booed twice.
Right.
The first time for a statement about change and how you don't have to hope for it or fight for it. You have to work hard to achieve it. As if those things really, as defined by their candidates, have separate meanings. But putting that aside, the second time was just a rhetorical question of, who's best ready to lead on day one. And as she led up to that, the implication was that only someone that, like her would be ready to lead on day one, and she got booed. And when she asked the rhetorical question, the crowd broke out in an Obama chant.
Yeah.
The Obama supporters, I wouldn't say the whole crowd. It was not even half of the Obama supporters. But it was definitely...
a good number, enough to make
It was
noise.
Definitely audible. Everyone in the audience heard it, and it wasn't just, a random small size group. It was definitely a sizable amount of people making this chant, and it was... Hillary actually sped up what was supposed to be, a quiet gap in her speech to, get a point across to move on. And, this came with Bill Clinton and Chelsea Clinton in the room. They showed up later. I think that's the takeaway is that, this is something that isn't just, wasn't just one event. It's now spread, and it's something they're clearly aware of. That if I don't think they were quite aware until yesterday, or I'd say Thursday by now, Thursday in Iowa, of how deep and how strong the support of Barack Obama is.
And that's exactly what I sort of felt almost immediately when we got there. When we arrived, there was a strong Hillary contingent pretty far away from the venue, sort of cheering and holding up their placards. When we actually got to the venue site, there was a table set up for Obama supporters. All Obama supporters were given placards, various Obama placards, which is a great sort of flag to wave, during the event, whether you were trying to draw attention to a particular point that someone you don't support, whether it be Hillary Clinton or Kucinich or Richardson was saying, and you want the press to sort of pay attention, or when you're trying to support Obama directly. Those things are very effective tools. The other campaigns were certainly not as effective at getting those placards out. One of the things I noticed particularly was that no Hillary placards were given out in advance, as people were sort of walking in, but after they had announced the candidates that were going to be speaking, I guess the chairperson of the event had gone through the names, went through, Richardson's and Kucinich's and then Hillary's, and they all got some applause. And then when he said Obama's name, the entire place just lit up. It was very loud. Yeah. And from there, right from the very beginning of the program, it became very clear that this was an Obama-charged audience, and that this was going to be very noisy for Obama. And after that, but after that, I noticed that some Hillary supporters had gone around and started passing out Hillary placards. The placards read "Ready" on them to Hillary supporters, and that's because the Obama people were holding up their placards anytime they made a cheer for Obama. And I guess to sort of try to compete with that, they wanted to get their placards out as well. But clearly they were not as prepared for this as Obama.
This is as we were driving up, we saw all these Hillary signs, and the first thing we thought was, where's all these Obama people? We didn't see any until we parked, we got out, we'd gone up to the building. The Obama campaign wasn't too much caught up in these things like how many signs can we post in front of the rally so we can win the sign derby. By the time we left, they put up some signs we saw.
Some huge ones,
Some huge ones, too. But they weren't really concerned about winning that. They were just concerned about making a good show later, apparently, or being the first up on that. The first thing they were concerned about was getting people to there so that anyone going in would be able to have placards, would have buttons, would have stickers. Yeah. And that's what organization is. And I think that, we could see a lot of the signs of the new generation of organizers really taking ground. This is something Howard Fryman wrote about online today that I really caught on to, is that this is something that, the Clinton campaign might be being outworked right now.
Well, yeah, that actually, I wasn't planning on talking about this, but actually it's perfect. I found it really interesting. I really paid attention to the kinds of people that, the volunteers, there was a lot of commotion getting in. So we had the opportunity to really see everybody, all the volunteers. And I was kind of listening to, at least when we were outside waiting to get in, it was very clear that the Obama supporters were college-age students, and, the volunteers, and possibly older, but college age. And I had noticed that the Hillary Clinton volunteers actually were high school students. Yeah. That a teacher had, solicited some students to bring. But, there's an age difference there. Yeah. She was using teachers. Not that she was doing it directly, but the campaign, the organization, was using teachers to sort of conscript high school students to help out with the, passing out and doing all the logistical work, whereas Obama had college-age students who are capable of being, a little more vocal, a little more active and proactive on their own without that sort of guidance.
When this first started, the campaign schedule was supposed to be a detriment to Obama because all the college students wouldn't be able to vote for him. It's turned on its head because they all can organize for him. They're all available to go wherever he needs them, and they have the exact perfect amount of time to go to either Iowa or New Hampshire.
They were there in force
to do the work, and they're not like Howard Dean's people getting in the way or not learning the ground. They're fitting in smoothly, and they're a lot more humble, I think, than Dean's people were. I think Howard Dean's people with the pink hats were just arrogant. Yeah, and
that's coming from you.
It's coming from me, and believe me, if you've paid any attention to me, you know how arrogant I am. But it really says something. So but I think one point where they kind of missed the boat. We talked about this is one thing I want to talk about for Obama.
Sure,
is that during the end of Bill Richardson's speech, half of the people on the right hand side of the room, about 600 people,
it's between 400 and 600
people, got up from their chairs in the back corner and moved towards the podium. And first we thought they were walking on Bill Richardson, but that didn't make any sense. It's just what it looked like. And then we noticed they're all holding Obama placards, and he's the only one that hadn't spoken yet. And we figured out soon enough that they were just going to go up there to try to get a spot right near the podium, so that they could have a good spot for when Obama speaks, which would have been fine if Bill Richardson still wouldn't have been speaking.
Right.
And that was kind of just really, I call it a rude, and I'm not.
I thought that was really.
I wouldn't have done that.
I wouldn't. I think that's
And I think this is
if they were doing it for some expressive purpose, perhaps he was saying something highly offensive, and they were trying to.
Absolutely.
At that point, there'd be some justification for it.
He was just wrapping up his speech.
To just organize yourselves at the expense of a candidate who's there seemed highly unnecessary and somewhat rude.
Yeah.
Especially since immediately after Richardson finished his speech, given the fact that Obama,
there's time enough between.
There are security threats. 600 people about 3 feet from where the candidate's about to give a speech is somewhat of a security threat, especially in that kind of crowd environment. They all had to sit down anyway, it was all for naught.
They all went back to the podium for Obama's speech, so I'll give them going to the podium. I can't.
Absolutely, yeah.
I just think it was rude how they did it, and the point I want to get to isn't that this was rude. And, I'm sure everyone, all sports do something rude. That's not the point, but that. As a movement gains ground, the risk of a movement is that people get alienated by how rude and arrogant people have become. Yeah. That's what I was going for with Howard Dean comparison, is that maybe they would reject the movement and not, while still accepting Obama.
Right, and that's a concern.
That has to be the concern. They have to exercise a little more control. I thought.
Because I had mentioned, I mentioned before that if that sort of conduct had taken place during Hillary Clinton's speech, that would have been very bad for the Obama campaign. Absolutely. There would have been no way for the campaign to convince the mainstream press and the Clinton campaign and anyone else who was paying attention that was not an intentional, pre-planned action. Yeah. The fact that it happened during Richardson's speech, was sort of good luck for the Obama campaign. But something like that could have really alienated a lot of supporters and potential supporters from supporting him in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely.